Hello and welcome to another video, if not a slightly later than planned video, for Final Fantasy XIV's Relic weapons. Obviously patch 7.41 releases this next Tuesday, and I finally got all of my weapons so that we can do the weapon showcase. We did this before with the first stages of the Dawntrail Relic. This time then we've obviously looking at the Umbrae section. The Umbrae section then has 21 weapons in total, and each one of these weapons represents 1500 of tomestones for that final stage. For this stage 2 then they are 760 item level, and each one of them gives you 10 achievement points upon completion. And as you can see, it has taken me a fair amount of time. Tomestone farming is not really my cup of tea, so to speak. So yes, we did eventually get there just before the patch came out. So let's look at these weapons and then also look at what they look like dyed. Starting off strong then with our tanks is Warrior, and Warrior has to be one of my favorites from the set. I really liked the glowy version of this in the first phase, and the glow is really nice. It would be nice to change the glow of weapons. I know that's something that just doesn't really happen that much in this game. There are like notable exceptions, two of which I can think of in my mind, but the rest of the weapons, pretty much the glow is implied to be always the same color. So this does obviously limit some of the options across all of the weapons, but the Warrior one just looks really good. I love the pulsating heartbeat of the cracked sort of rock earth of the main part of the blade here, but also like the crystal edge glowing as well, and then with the new glow effect, looks really good. I have used this quite a lot unglamored. I haven't had to glamour this away that often. It is one of my favorite Warrior weapons in the game so far. I'm really excited to see what the new version in 7.41 for the new phase, for phase 3, will look like. It does look like obviously we get glows with the next phase as well, so presumably there'll be a like an unglowy version and then a glowy version for tomes or something for the final stage. So expect to have double-barreled quests once again, where you have a hoop to jump through and then some tomes straight afterwards, which seems to be the happy medium that Square Enix seems to be settling for, at least for this Relic series. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the future. The axe looks absolutely gorgeous then, and definitely lends well to a good number of colors. The pulsating heartbeat there with the glow there, looking really good in a variety of different colors, and the secondary dye looking good on the metal as well. Really cool. Massive fan of that one. Moving on to Paladin then, which is a huge fan favorite. Looks really good in the dark, this one. It's an absolutely exceptional weapon, and I love the sword more than I do the shield. I think the sword is something I'll probably end up continuing to use even when the new version comes out, if I can get my hands on a replica version. So the shield, the reason I don't really like the shield, it's the kind of spattered effect on the dye there in the center. So you've got a heartbeat glow similar to what the Warrior has, but it's got this weird kind of effect on a shield. I'm not sure if it's even coming through on YouTube. Certainly some colors blend it in, sort of disguise it better than others, but it's kind of like a mottled effect, and it kind of irritates me slightly. Like, I've tried to daily this shield and I can't stand the look of it. I end up glamoring this away, which isn't a bad thing. Mixing and matching swords and shields. The very fact that Paladin can do this and no one else, no other job in the game can do that. It is about time in 8.0 that we start to see being able to dye and change weapons independently. I know that's a system that's built in, for example, for Viper, Ninja, etc., but it would be so cool if you could mix and match weapons in the left and right hand, as well as, obviously having different effects throughout that, like Paladin does. So in that regard, it's quite unique that if you don't like a part of it, you can get rid of it, unlike all of the others. I do like the sword though. I think the sword's nice. You can't really see much of that mottled effect there. There you go. Perfect examples there with the darker colors, with the bright colors. Kind of looks like steam, like condensation on a window. If that's your bag, that's cool, but it's not my kind of interest. It just kind of looks like the paint has flaked off or something. Not my cup of tea, but the sword is gorgeous. Can't wait to see what they do next. Speaking of amazing, though, the tank weapons, they're always really good. The Dark Knight weapon especially, this gives me some real, like, Elden Ring, sort of Dark Souls kind of vibes, you know, Soulspawn vibes. I love the glow on the end of this. I think it's the perfect accompaniment to what looks like something you've just pulled out of a statue or something. It looks like a relic, doesn't it? It actually looks like a relic weapon. It's got the runes down the actual blade itself. It looks big, meaty, heavy. You know, this thing would probably knock someone out even if it didn't have a blade on it. But I especially like that coiled sort of sword end there with all the weird sort of spirals. It kind of looks like we've ripped this off of the Coil of Bahamut or something, like it was on Dalamud, and we just ripped it out of the shell. It's kind of cool. And the purple dye is quite nice, actually. I think a good number of colors work well with this. I especially like pearl white on a lot of these weapons. I think the super high contrast works really well as a juxtaposition with the obviously glow colors. But purple is always a win. I'm a massive fan of purple. And the very fact that we can obviously change the color of the glow on the runes, always a win. Yeah, there's not much to dislike about this one. I think it's one of the cooler ones. It'll be interesting to see how extravagant some of the glowies get later. One of the biggest complaints people had with the resistance weapons, if you remember from Zadnor and Bosja, was that it kind of looked like gummy bears or like, you know, jello was stuck to the side of your weapon. So it's nice to see that they're going away from that. It feels more of a traditional weapon series, especially with the screenshot of the 7.41 sneak peek. Obviously, it's just a really low resolution image, but it kind of reminds me of the Anima stage more than it does a Realm Reborn or anything else. It feels like we're going back to what made Relics entertaining, or at least useful to get for glamour. The Gunbreaker one is quite nice. The biggest thing I don't like about the Gunbreaker one is there's a lot of red going on here, and it doesn't really matter what color we're going for. That red is quite piercing, quite a bright white with that as well, with the flame. But if you can get behind that, that's pretty cool. The handle, obviously, being part of that secondary dye, looking pretty good, quite plasticky unless you go for a metallic color. And yeah, the blade's all right. It would have been nice if we could dye the midsection with the sort of black metal. But it does have nice contrast with yellows and blacks and, you know, other colors like silver. But some of the colors you might dye this might look a little bit off with it. White looks really good, as you can see. But yeah, it's kind of like an extra color. We need a third dye palette for arms and armor. I know that we've only just got the double dye palette in Dawntrail, but that's not to mean that we can't have triple dyes, right? But I think before we get that, we probably need double dyeing on housing items. That would be on the top of my list of requests for glamour and, you know, stuff like that, dye ability. But we'll have to wait and see, right? 8.0 promises some character customization. Will they expand on the glamour system? There were rumors about the glamour system getting a bit of an overhaul. I would like something akin to that of World of Warcraft with the MOG storage system, where you store an image rather than an item. That would free up infinite space, but it'll be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, this does lend itself well to various different colors, but that red is quite piercing. And you'll notice that all of the spell effects are pretty much the same on all of the weapons, where they have this kind of wisping sort of star effect as it's coming off. Moving on to our healers then, this is probably one of my least favorite White Mage canes in the game. I know some of you absolutely love this. It's a lantern attached to basically a branch, right? A staff with a branch coming out the top in a crescent moon shape, which would be fine. It's just the dye ability absolutely sucks on this weapon. So it doesn't matter how pretty the glow is and how cool the special particle effects are. The branch bit just doesn't, like at the top, it just doesn't dye very nicely. You know what I mean? Like the actual staff itself and the sub dye of the staff looks really good. And the leaves aren't too bad. But the top of it, the crescent moon, not a massive fan of that. I just personally don't like this. It's not quite as bad as the giant tree that we got in the Resistance series. But it's certainly not an improvement, at least in my tastes, from that of the Mandeville weapons. I think the Mandevilius cane trumps this a million times over. But, you know, you might like this. Yeah, it's not a bad weapon, I guess. But I probably would glamour this away immediately. I'm very excited then to see what they do for the next generation, for Phase 3 or beyond that, of the relic weapons for healers. I think White Mage especially seems to have gotten a pretty rough time with this. There are only so many use case scenarios for this. You've got to really like the Love Heart Lantern, which I'm not really a big fan of. But yeah, I can't wait to see what the future holds for White Mage, because we've had some absolutely fantastic weapons in the past, but I think we should sort of hover away from the branch kind of idea and go for something cool. Scholar then, interesting glow on this one. When it comes to the books, they kind of did this whole the side can glow, but not the rest of it. It's one of my pet hates with the Scholar book. It dyes really nicely in a variety of different colors. It's got this kind of base black color. Some of the darker colors don't really show up on this, but brighter colors definitely pop with this. But the glow, I personally think, should have been across the entirety of the book. So what I'm hoping for with the Scholar and Summoner books in 7.41, which obviously we haven't seen yet, I'm hoping that the glow on that version extends across the entirety of the book, because a lot of weapons, they have the tip being the glowy bit, but for a book it just doesn't look that good. I mean, that looks good, the colors there, pearl white and metallic silver, looks amazing. Same with some of the gold colors, etc. But the blue, it would have been cooler if it was across the top. I do like the second palette being a feather though. I think that is quite a nice touch, and yeah, it doesn't, you know, I don't hate it. It's just, let's see what's next, I guess. That's always the case with intermediary stages, although I do say that I really love the warrior weapon. So, I don't know, maybe some weapons will improve in looks and some will kind of get worse. I mean, yeah, depends really, doesn't it? But aesthetically, I do like the idea of there being a crescent moon, crescent isle, you know, the occult crescent. Kind of makes sense that there would be something to do with that lore-wise in the actual Scholar book. It's pretty cool. It's not my least favorite Scholar book in the game by any means. I think the Resistance one that is pea-colored yellow with a glow kind of trumps that in terms of the worst if I was to do a tier list. Astro, though, completely different galaxy at this point. I absolutely adore this weapon. Both the card sleeve and the actual globe itself looks absolutely exceptional. If anything, I would say that it's almost difficult, like too difficult to dye this to match to things, because the dyes are so incredibly subtle. It's got this metallic finish to it, so no matter what dye you apply to that, the primary dye being the metal of the actual outside of the globe, it does turn it into a metallic color. So unless you're going for a bright color, you're not really gonna tell that it's a different color. The secondary palette, as you can see, is that section on the card sleeve at the top, and actually the spinning thing in the middle, the vial or whatever that is. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's somebody who knows what that is that's spinning around. Yeah, it has a much stronger palette, so what you dye it changes to that color. But darker colors do seem more washed out on that texture. So brighter colors definitely work the best. I do really like the neon colors in this game. Not many people use them, neon green and neon yellow. I suppose it does look like a, you know, fluorescent jacket that you would see it somebody who's a construction worker wearing, but I do think they look really good. The Astro weapon's gorgeous though. It reminds me of so many things from, I don't know, Marquis sort of architecture, Charlian sort of stuff. It has a right mishmash of different styles, which kind of matches the background of the Occult Crescent, because it's a place where lots of people were shipwrecked and they had to try and cohabitate. And you can imagine a lot of those styles coming out in the relics, the weapons of legend from that. And you can also see that in the architecture. So I think the Astro one is absolutely gorgeous. The Sage one, however, I don't think has many roots in terms of lore. I mean, I could be wrong, but rockets, they are literally spaceships or rockets, or I don't know. They're pretty cool though. I do like the idea that we get different styled items rather than just laser cannons or guns. Floating guns seems to be the other one, but floating rockets with a kind of like a re-entry effect for the glow. I think that's quite creative. I really, really liked this when I saw it. And I didn't know what the glow was going to be on these, but I wasn't disappointed. You can kind of make them look a little bit like Thunderbird 3 if you dye them red as well, which is kind of my bag, man. I love Thunderbirds when I was a kid. But yeah, the secondary die palette's a little bit odd with the back of it, like a tiny little rocket engine section changes color. It would have been nice to have sort of like a mix and match color, but the main color is just a complete solid block, which is quite nice. But I really don't know what they're going to do with Sage. Perhaps the next stage will be something more grounded. I don't really know what I would want either. Like, I absolutely love playing Sage when I get the opportunity to actually heal. But it's kind of like they've done a lot of really interesting ideas, and I can never predict what's going to come next. Like, some of my favorite weapons for Sage, especially the Figmental weapon, just stuff that's outside of the ordinary other than just floating guns and laser cannons. I think new lifts are very, very cool, and there's a lot of room for creativity. And it'd be nice to see if there's something Occult Crescent related, because I'm not sure how rockets sit into that, but they are really cool though. Massive fan of rockets. Moving on to our melee then, one of the most disappointing jobs, at least for me personally. It doesn't look too bad aesthetically, but when you start to dye this, you give up very quickly. I'm not going to go through all of the dyes because it's a complete and utter waste, but only that sort of circular disc and its inner circular disc are the 2 dye palettes. So it's kind of it's a huge waste of dye to go through the full palette, so we're not going to, because obviously this is taking me forever to actually record all of the dyes and all of the gil needed for it. I do think they need to work on the monk weapons. Not a massive fan. The glow's okay, but not a massive fan of that. Let me know if I'm wrong. Dragoon then, I love playing Dragoon. I do think the weapon needs something more. The blue tip is gorgeous, that blue effect. And it's kind of like another trident. I think the problem with Dragoon is it looks kind of more of the same. I think that's okay for me to say. It's a very aesthetically pleasing model. I really like it, don't get me wrong, but I do think that probably some more abstract designs would be cool. I don't know what we'd probably go for. I would like to have like a double-ended symmetrical glaive, kind of like, you know, the lightsaber of the Final Fantasy XIV world. So you've got a blade either side, kind of like an actual glaive rather than a spear. I think that would be cool, and a lot of people would probably be totally down for that as well. Double-bladed, double-ended staff, basically. That'd be quite cool. Something different, maybe. I don't know what else they could do. Something Occult Crescent related. This one doesn't immediately shout Occult Crescent, at least as far as I can immediately tell. But it definitely looks like something from the Dragon Song War. So if you're looking for something a little bit pretty, a little bit subtle with a blue glow, it can look really nice, especially in some whites and blues on the double dye palette. The thing I don't like is the midsection, the cross-section between the top part of the spear and then the side spears, the prongy bits, the trident section. That would have been nice if that was included in the dye palette, because it kind of, unless you like this kind of dark coal black in the center of a weapon, it's going to probably put you off. The rest of it's fine though. The little banner that's attached is quite nice. Yeah, it's kind of cool, but they could do a lot more experimentation, I think. Ninja is probably one of my favorites that I've seen, at least from the glow. Before the glow, I wasn't massively impressed. I do like curved swords and like scimitars, that kind of thing. I don't know what the term is for this particular type of sword slash dagger. It's nice though, whatever it is. I do like the way that it's got a cutout section in the middle. I think I will be sad to see this one go, but I am also excited to see what the 7.41 series version looks like. I'll probably end up picking these up as a replica though. They dye exceptionally well. There is a section that is undyeable there, with a metal section, sort of silver and then black inside, but it kind of lends itself well because it's subtle enough. I do think that some of the colors are a little bit not direct. They're not as bright as they could be. A lot of them seem a bit washed out or darker. But yeah, the secondary palette's lovely with the tassels on the top and sort of like the binding of the hilt. But the glow is absolutely exceptional. I was really, really happy when I saw this. I was like, whoa, that's cool. Kind of like a blue particle effect again, flowing off of the weapon, sort of generating ether, or emanating ether rather. Looks really cool. And blue does go quite nicely with a lot of ninja-themed stuff. I don't know, blue? Is blue a ninja color? To me, blue and green is like a ninja color. Maybe blue is the Dragoon color, like if you were to choose a color to represent each job mentally. But I think it looks pretty cool. I'm really excited to see what they do next, though. I hope they keep the curved sort of aspect of these. Curved swords are pretty cool. Maybe even go even more outlandish. Maybe bigger ones. And then we've got Samurai, which I quite like, actually, now I've got the glow. It was really nice before. The sort of ornamental scabbard there. The dye palette is still questionable. Some dyes look really good on it, and some look a bit meh. You will notice the tip of the blade still has that undyeable red section, which kind of looks like glowing blood or something that's been applied to it. Which, yeah, I don't know how that looks with the glow, which is a yellow. I was surprised when it was yellow, to be perfectly honest. But it's not a terrible looking glow. And it does fit a variety of different colors. It's just a good job that we have the, you know, unglowy versions as well to revert back to. Not my personal favorite glow, but it does look good in some colors, especially if you try to match sort of like a metallic ruby red, for example, with a yellow secondary. Looking pretty nice, but you've got to kind of get used to that undyeable section and a yellow glow. Your mileage will vary. But all in all, it is quite a nice design. I think Samurai is another one that I would like to see have some more experimentation, some interesting designs. I can't really think of anything that would be a Court Crescent sort of related. Maybe something that's sort of marquee in sort of design would be interesting. Although the lore implications of a samurai weapon, yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I think they should go wild with samurai. There's a lot of blades now that look quite similar, and there are lots of blades in the game that have better dye palettes than this, such as the Gordian Katana, all the way back from Heavensward, that has a dyeable glow on it. It looks really good. Reaper probably is the best weapon from this series in terms of weapon design. The glow it's okay. It's subtle. And it's on the inner curve, which looks good. And it's sort of like this purple color, which goes really well with a variety of colors. But I still think this weapon is one of the nicest weapons for Reaper they have ever made. And if you've seen the 7.41 preview, it only gets better. Reapers are eating incredibly well. Like the metallic yellow and black, huge win with the intricate designs. I love how much of this weapon is dyeable as well. There are sections that aren't changing color there, but because of so much of that intricate design, instead of it being baked in like a piece of brass inlay on a piece of armor that you can't change the color of, instead of that, we've got full dyeability of that. I also love the sort of Nidhogg kind of eye, the dragon eye there on the blade there, the sort of Cthulhu eye. I don't know what you would call it, all-seeing eye. It looks really good. But I love the crescent moon design at the top of the staff itself before it joins into the blade. I think the more they stick to that crescent moon style, the better things would be. That's what I would like to see on Samurai. More of the occult crescent itself, the moon crescent being incorporated into all of the designs. I think it only makes sense that they kind of stick to that. This weapon will probably go down in history as one of the nicest Reaper weapons. There are some exceptional Reaper blades in this game. Ever since they were first introduced, people have been eating good, but you continue to do so in comparison to some other jobs, and this looks really good. The glow's all right. Viper, I personally really like this. We've got it in the... I did my /battle pose to put it into the two-handed mode so that we can get a proper look at this. I really like this weapon. I think the dyeability is gorgeous. The secondary palette complements the primary perfectly. The glow is the tipped red on both sides, sort of flowing into each other. Kind of looks like it's flowing towards your arm, even in the single-handed mode. It's just a really bloody good weapon. What I will say about this, though, is they haven't gone too intricate. They haven't gone too wild with the design. So what I'm hoping from this sort of base, that we get much more inlaid detail, because there's a little bit of detail on the blade itself that kind of reminds me of something from like Final Fantasy VIII, kind of like graffiti style, like runes, which is very, very subtle. I do think there's a missing crescent moon section to this. I think the actual hilt section, the guard. If the guard was like in a crescent moon shape, this weapon would be near perfect to me personally. But that's what I think they should do for the next section. I would be surprised if they didn't lean that direction. Or it would be even nice to have more curved blades. Viper has a couple of really cool curved weapons. But yeah, the more the merrier. I think Vipers are also eating quite well. It is a bit basic in comparison to some weapons, but the glow is really nice and looks really good in dark colors with the red glow. Yeah, look at that. Dalamud red and metallic ruby red looks exceptional. Huge fan of the Viper weapons, actually. Bard, I'm not personally a massive fan of heart bows. I think we've got a lot of heart bows in the game, and I don't think this one is especially different. Some of the dye ability looks pretty good. We've got this kind of yellow glow on it now. So they've gone for a yellow glow similar to the samurai weapon. In fact, I think it's the same. Only we've got the front section on those angel wings, and then it sort of flows over to the actual bow itself. So obviously this is going to be complemented by brighter colors. It's kind of it sort of looks like a tropical drink in the neon colors. Metallic yellow and canary yellow look really nice. Same with metallic orange. The brighter the color, the better this works, I think, with the glow. Otherwise, you're going to have this weird sort of juxtaposition of this really bright glow and then sort of wood grain effect on the inside. Yeah, still not a massive fan of this one. I will say the 7.41 preview image, I'm not a huge fan of that bow either. I think bows themselves could be led in a different direction. This one seems to have a little bit more sort of, occult crescent styling to it with the stars. It'd be cool if there was literally a bow that was just a giant crescent moon. That would be amazing. And just imagine a giant crescent moon, like a half moon with strings attached to that. I think a lot of people would kill for that, quite honestly. Kind of like a sort of moon Tsukiyomi style bow. But yeah, I guess more heart bows. If that's your bag, then you'll probably like this one. I think it looks a little bit too basic, though, in my own personal taste. That's just my opinion, though, right? Based on other bows that we've had in the game, I think this one is quite safe. Yeah, not my favorite. The Machinist weapon, then, isn't too bad. I think they're probably going to go crazy with this later on, and this being like a primary glow stage for that first stage, for stage 2. Looks quite nice, the intricate details on the glows there. On the dyes, rather, with the glow. The glow kind of makes it look like the top of the weapon, this 4-chambered blunderbuss pistol thing, is overheating. And I really, really like that aesthetic. It's got this kind of glowy orange section mixing into red. Really, really like that. I think that is a really good look, actually. The red kind of looks like heat is dissipating off of the front of it, like it's recently been fired. It also reminds me a little bit of Fallout with the laser guns. I think there's like a 4-chambered laser pistol, isn't there? And that's why I was deciding to dress up in my Fallout glam. I was like, this is the perfect weapon for this. Looks like a laser gun that you've just found somewhere. Kind of like from the Institute or something in Fallout 4. Looks really good. The dye's not so great. It would be nice if the barrel itself could be dyed. Instead, we've got the secondary dye affecting, you see that metal sort of arrow shape down the actual barrel, as well as the other sections that are green there or blue there, for example. It's all right. I think more dye ability, the better, though. But yeah, it's not a terrible weapon. It's definitely not your standard sort of gun, and I think they can go absolutely wild with guns. Again, it would be nice to see more occult crescent sort of influences in the next step. Dancer then is probably one of my favorites, again, equally to Reaper. I think Dancers ate incredibly well with these, and I would be surprised if they didn't continue with this fan design. It just looks really good. I like the spinny discs as much as the next person, but when you have blades, a blade dancer is just such a cool idea. I would like to see, I don't know really, anything, as long as it's down the same path as this, would work. The secondary palette then, the gemstones there, and the primary, the metal, looking really good. It looks just amazing. They've gone for a nice subtle purpley blue, sort of violet sort of glow. which complements a lot of different colors actually, because there's also a bit of a white glow. So any color that you apply to this is kind of emboldened with that white border, that white glowed border. So it kind of embosses it. It sticks out. It's a good choice of glow. It's a good particle effect to be applied to a weapon like this. Yeah, Dancers, I mean, that looks amazing. Neon pink and pure white. I think that might be the one to go for. But there are so many great options here. Like, you could look at every single one of these die previews and go, that works, that works, that works. You know what I mean? Whereas on some weapons, you're like, you know what I mean? It just feels like throw colors at it and then match to whatever colors you're wearing as a dancer and you'll be fine. If you were to equip like the dancer artifact stuff, like the realized stuff from Memora Misera with these weapons, yeah, you'd be onto a winner there. Perfect. Yeah, really, really difficult for me to say anything negative about them as those at all. Black Mage, however, definitely one of my least favorite. Black Mages, I feel, got shafted a little bit. The stick is dyeable, and then the secondary is the little crystal wood bit. I don't know. I get that staves are wooden. It looks so incredibly basic. I know this is like the glowy version of stage 1, so stage 2, but I really have high expectations for Black Mage in 7.41. I really hope they get something cool, like a big metal stave with like a crescent moon built into it or something. I suppose we've had that before, really, haven't we? With the bunny sitting on a moon for White Mage. But I don't know. Anything other than this. A stick with a rock stuck in it that's glowing. Not a personal fan, especially after looking at things like the Anima weapon and, you know, the Realm Reborn weapon as well. We have fallen quite far from those branches, so to speak. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing. The glow isn't terrible, though. Like, if this was a staff I actually liked, the glow's really cool as it's sort of funneling out the top in a wide sort of beam. Really cool. Not a massive problem. The crystals sort of studded into it, a cool idea. I don't know. I think we can do better than just a twig with rocks stuck in it. It has flashbacks of the resistance weapons for White Mage, quite honestly. Yeah, it's okay. It's not going to be on a list anywhere near the top. I also kind of don't like the sort of ticker tape fabric at the top there. Yeah. Summoner was a surprise to me. I wasn't sure if I would like this. The actual book design, when I first got that from the previous stage, for the Umbrae stage, I was very impressed how much I liked it. Like the flapping bat. Yes, it's like a 2 FPS bat floating above a weapon, but it's something different. It kind of reminds me a little bit of what they did with the Anima weapon, when basically it turned into, you know, a big dragon at the top, Bahamut basically. But it's just a little bat floating around. The book itself is really nice. The glow that they've added is cool. I like the green yellow. The only problem is, again, it's not across the entire book. So it seems like only half of the book is powerful. I don't know. It just feels a bit strange. It's like got this weird asymmetry to the glow. I do like the crescent moon on this. It's got lots of, you know, lore-related backstory built into it. It's not a badly designed book. That's what I'm trying to get at. I just don't understand why for the books, for both Scholar and Summoner, the glow doesn't go across the entire top of the book. It would look infinitely better, and a lot more people would be walking around with this unglamoured. But, I think your best bet is to go for the unglowy version. It looks better. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the books for both Scholar and Summoner look like in 7.41. Hopefully you get something absolutely outlandish. I can't wait to see what sort of designs they come up with. But it's leaning towards, you know, this just being the first basic step before we go crazy with those effects, hopefully. On the flip side, though, Red Mage is one of those ones that I love. and I dislike at the same time. So the dye ability on the base weapon, and indeed this version, which is the upgraded version, is the biggest problem. You have a permanent red section on the blade that is taking up the majority of the blade, and there is nothing you can do about it. The primary and secondary dyes pretty much only affect the floating focus crystal and that of the guard and hilt and pommel, and some of the inlaid design across the blade. I think the fact that the blade is just red, obviously it makes sense, it's a red mage, but at the same time it really quite irritates me that we can't change the color of it, because unless you're going to dress up in something that has red on it, if you're like me, right, you're probably trying to match your glamour to a weapon, or vice versa. You don't want something blue being equipped with something red, right, unless there is also blue on that item and you can change the dyes to match it. So it's not like we can't change dye palettes to match that red. It's just unfortunate that it's not a base color or one of like a primary palette, and then the secondary palette should have been the inlaid design across the blade. That's my biggest issue with it. The glow is really cool, actually. I like the tip of it being white hot and then flowing down with these red, very vibrant red particle effects. It does look like it's a really hot pokey stick, and that you're going to do some harm if you stick this in someone. So massive fan of that. Cannot wait to see what they do with Red Mage, but I do actually really like the weapon. It's just I'm being overly critical, I think, about the undyeable nature of that section. And then lastly, Pictomancer, which is definitely getting the biggest glow up in 7.41 I've ever seen. On the preview picture, we see an incredible weapon. I absolutely detest this weapon. It's okay, but it's not my cup of tea. The glow effect on the palette is really cool on the right side there, as you can see in her left hand. On the left side, where she's holding in her right hand the actual brush, it's okay. It's not the best glow in the world. I think they could have done better. This weapon is just like the most psychedelic thing you've ever seen in your life. It definitely complements the brighter colors possible, like neon yellow and neon green work perfectly on this. It's like a 1960s hippie trip, man. There's flowers on the actual brush itself. It isn't my kind of aesthetic. I appreciate that some people will love that, but I personally cannot wait for 7.141's version of the Pictomancer weapon, because it's getting a completely big change, and anything is better in my eyes than this. Yeah, I've been glamoring over this for quite some time until I recently got the Courtly Lovers weapon instead as a replacement, of course, in the last patch. But it's not a terrible weapon, but it certainly isn't up there anywhere near. Like, if I was to do a tier list, this would probably be on E. Like, this is not my cup of tea. I also hate the undyeable nature of some of the little mini sections. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of flower power. It's just not my aesthetic, but it might be yours. Who knows? All in all, though, that's all of the weapon glows that have been added on, obviously, dye previews. That took me quite a long time to do. It took me 12 hours to dye everything and record it, let alone all of the extra time. I think Reapers are eating good in this patch. I mean, look at that weapon on the preview. There are some really exceptional weapons. Some of my favorites, definitely the Dark Knight weapon stands out. It looks like something straight out of an action RPG. Looks phenomenal. The warrior weapon looks great. The paladin weapon, I'm looking forward to see what they do with a shield. I would love there to be an actual tower shield, a proper big full-size, body-size tower shield. Of course, I'm looking forward to seeing what Monk gets, because the dye palettes are the worst part about this. It's not a bad weapon necessarily. Like, the glows are cool. The dye palettes are the worst part about this, and yeah, for that reason, it's not something I like the idea of matching to. It's just, it's not my cup of tea. I think they can do better with more monk weapons. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you love that. And then, of course, Viper looks great. Like, I can't wait to see what they do with that. But there are definitely some highlights of this. I would love to see what they do next in terms of an actual stage, though. A lot of people have toyed with the idea of perhaps they're revisiting Anima and, of course, the A Realm Reborn Zodiac stages. I personally will go out on a limb and say they're probably not going to do a book stage. That's something that I would like. I'm a bit of a sadist when it comes to stuff like this. I like jumping through hoops, and the books were certainly hoops to jump through. It's more likely to have something, maybe even do a watered down version of it for modern audiences, or perhaps do something completely different. I don't know, maybe another light stage? Who knows? It does look like, though, because on the preview there are only glowy weapons shown, that will have an unglowy version and then a glowy weapon. So presumably there'll be a 2 stages in this patch. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm excited for this one, and I'm excited to see what the new designs look like. Very, very cool. Anyway, let me know which one is your favorite, how wrong I am about Monk. And thank you so much for watching. More videos on the way. We're obviously going to be covering 7.41 as much as we physically can on YouTube, and also some streams. Much love, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.